The regular season has finally ended. For at least 18 teams, we know what the draft order is going to be. So let's cook up another mock draft coming up right after this. And we are back. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Draft Dodgers here on Project Prospect with Dom C. A little housekeeping out of the way. We're going to talk mock draft, one round, no trades, just go through this. We've locked in, for the most part, the top 18 picks in this class. So just wanted to get something out there, get some content out to you. If you haven't done so, would really appreciate, if you don't mind, hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, leaving a comment. Let's get some friendly discourse going. The more interaction, the more the YouTube algorithm likes my stuff and throws it out to the masses. So if you haven't done so, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, all that good stuff. On to the fun stuff. It's mock draft version 4.0. The regular season has ended. And for these 18 teams, we know exactly where they're going to draft. So I wanted to run through the process, just get some names out there. Maybe some different teams and different drafting slots will cause some possible different situations or players to be, in consideration. Again, I like the trades. I don't necessarily think that they're very easy to drum up. I don't think they're very accurate. I mean, who knows what's going to happen in regards to trades in the NFL. So it's easier to just go through this without any trades and just see what happened. Well, let me reframe. I am going to have one little trade and you'll see it. It's pretty easy and pretty simple when it happens. So what do you say? Let's do this. Let's get into this mock draft. Going to try to keep this one short and sweet for you folks. So as usual, I have the mock draft simulator here, courtesy of PFF. All the teams have been lifted. Put in order, and we're gonna get this thing going. Tennessee, after a loss today, is now sitting with the number one spot, and I think if you're a Tennessee Titans fan, you could be happy. The Will Levis experiment, it hasn't gone so well. Listen, he wasn't a first round pick. He was a second round guy. A lot of development. He had shown some flashes, but a lot less than you want to see, and a lot less than I'm sure that organization and Callahan is interested in seeing. So they're going to move on. They're going to take their franchise quarterback here. And for me, the buzz is that they are smitten with Cam Ward. So Cam Ward's going to be the selection for Tennessee. They move on. The Will Levis experiment has come and gone. So you're going to have Cam Ward there with a good offensive mind. Hopefully they'll use some of this other draft capital and some of their cap space that they have to surround and support Cam Ward with some weapons so he can, be handed the keys and put in a good position to succeed. So I did say, earlier when we're on to number 2 with Cleveland, I did say there wasn't going to be any trades or maybe there'd be one. This is the one I'm going to do. To me, it's, kind of simple. So I'm not going to, get too deep into trades here. But this one, for me, makes all the sense in the world. I'm going to have the Giants trade up one spot. And, to trade up one spot, they're going to give up, their first. They're going to give up their second. And they're going to get back number 2, and they're going to get back a third rounder, which comes later in Buffalo. So again, for the sake of this exercise in this video, it's only a 1-round deal, but the trade that I'm offering is 3 and 34 for 2 and 93. I'm going to offer it, and it was accepted, and that puts the Giants on the board. And again, this is probably no brainer. This is going to be Shedeur Sanders. The rumor has it that Shedeur Sanders has been a guy that Joe Shane and the Giants front office, have been honing in on. I know they've, visited and seen him and been live at a lot of his games this offseason. I like Shedeur Sanders. I happen to like Shedeur Sanders more than I like Cam Ward as a prospect. Maybe a little bit lower of a ceiling. Obviously not the athlete. Definitely doesn't have the arm strength that Cam Ward has. But there's something about throwing the ability for him to stand in the pocket, amongst pressure and face it and throw, very accurate, very head smart, understands, processes the game very well, understands what he sees pre-snap, can adjust as the post-snap happens. Like I said, he throws with anticipation, throws a really good, accurate ball, very high floor. In the sense that he'll be a starter in this league, and he should be a good starter. I don't know if he has the all-pro ceiling that some of these quarterbacks in the past couple of years have had, but for me, it's the high floor, lower ceiling guy in Shedeur Sanders, or the lower floor, higher ceiling guy in Cam Ward, and the Giants don't have an option here. Cam Ward's off the board. Shedeur Sanders comes in, and he's the next franchise quarterback here, and let's see if they can, if he turns out to be more Eli Manning or if he turns out to be more Daniel Jones. And with that trade back, Cleveland comfortably just sits and takes arguably the best player in this class. Between him and Travis Hunter, I don't think there's going to be many arguments. Abdul Carter is an athletic freak. Abdul Carter can do a lot for a team. The amount of bend that he has, his versatility, being able to play, on his feet, in his, with his hand in the dirt from a wide 9 spot. The speed, the athleticism, the bend that he has around the edge. He's going to be a menace. And, Cleveland can use guys like that. I know, they just re-signed Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah to a big contract, and, he got hurt and so on and so forth. Not to say that he's going to play off-ball linebacker. He's going to be an edge presence. He's going to be, someone opposite of Myles Garrett who can really help take some of the pressure off of that defensive line, which, with Abdul Carter, you're looking at a really staunch defensive line for the next couple of years. So I'm not going to hesitate. They're going to take Abdul Carter, and it moves me on to New England, who, as I filmed this today on Sunday night, had a really, really shocking win, if I do say so myself. Took them out of contention of the number 1 overall pick. They beat Buffalo's backups, and, that's just what it is. So puts them at the number 4 spot. They just fired Gerard Mayo. There's some changes coming, but I don't think you can any of these changes that happen doesn't take away the fact of a couple things, is that they found their franchise quarterback in Drake May. They're going to have, roughly $120 to $130 million in cap space available to go spend. And, they need to protect Drake May. So that's what I'm going to do here with this pick. I'm going to go ahead and protect Drake May, and I'm going to take a brick house, compact, powerful, offensive lineman. This is a little high for me personally, but I think if you look at all the available tackles, guys who I think will play tackle at the next level, Kelvin Banks is the one. And in what I feel is a little bit of a down tackle class, for me, he's probably the best of the bunch. He's a guy that has experience on the left side. He can come in there and play left tackle without question. He, for a guy at 325 pounds and almost 6'5", he plays very late on his feet. He always, understands and wins the leverage game. He's got the length to handle some of the stuff that speed will, and those bigger defensive ends, will give some other guys trouble. He's got enough length to keep people off of his body. Some technical stuff that needs to be cleaned up. Please, definitely has too many penalties. His hands play a little bit low and a little bit wide, which could be an issue. But again, that's something that with a little bit of coaching, I think you can, find yourself a good offensive tackle here in Kelvin Banks, and he's going to be the pick. Jacksonville at number 5. they're happy as happy as a clam. Travis Hunter has fallen to them. Doesn't matter if he plays cornerback, which I think is his best position. His ability to react, understand, anticipate. Him have that wide receiver ability as well. Maybe they can run some packages with him on offense, but more so him playing wide receiver helps him play defense. He understands route concepts. He understands what quarterbacks are thinking. He understands, and his ability to click and close is second to none in this class. Not the biggest guy, not not a knockout artist in terms of tackler, but a ball hawk and a playmaker nonetheless. So Travis Hunter is going to be the pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Las Vegas Raiders are on the clock. Still questions on what they're going to do with their coaching. Is AP coming back? If not, there's a lot of holes on that team that need to be addressed. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fix one of them. I don't know if there's quarterback here. And I will say this: it will not surprise me if through this draft season from now until April that Jalen Milroe kind of works himself up into this top 10. I'm just not right there yet. And set to pick him there. So I'm going to hold off on that for the Raiders. And I'm going to go ahead and take what I think is the best player left on the board for them, or best player left on the board, period. And that's the defensive back out of Michigan, Will Johnson. He battled a little bit of a foot, a Lisfranc thing this year. Missed a lot of time. Was an absolute stud last year. And I think he's got that rare, blend of size and athleticism at 6'2", 205 pounds. He, can accelerate downhill. He's got those buttery hips that he can flip and run and run with wide receivers. He's got real good ball skills as well. He understands, zone concepts, and he plays with those zone eyes, which I love in a defensive back. But is also big enough and understands and can get physical and lock you up, press man. So the Raiders are gonna shore up and go BPA at this point and take Will Johnson. And leaves the Jets here. Again, Jets with a big win here in Miami. For some, we'll say big win. For some, we'll say embarrassing win if you're, a Jet fan and wanted a higher draft pick. But alas, here we are. I'm going to assume that Aaron Rodgers walked off into the sunset after his 4-touchdown, 1 interception performance today. And with that, I think if Aaron Rodgers is gone, Tay Adams is gone. So I'm going to go ahead and take Tet McMillan. Is Tet McMillan a Tay Adams replacement in terms of skill set? No, they're a little bit different, but what Tet McMillan can offer is a very nice compliment to Garrett Wilson. You're talking about a guy at 6'5", 215 pounds, very strong, very big hands, huge catch radius with a good release package, can play inside or outside. He's tough to bring down. So with a big guy, he's got some yak ability, some really good yak ability. So I don't care if you play him inside as a big slot. I don't care if you play him out on the boundary as the X. Tet McMillan is a guy you put the ball in his hands and magic happens. And, this will help, again, support Garrett Wilson and that offense, now that they'd be down Tay Adams and probably Alan Lazard for that matter. But, let's not really think that he matters at all. Tet McMillan, you're coming east to the New York Jets. Welcome aboard, buddy. Good luck. Carolina's up next at 8, right? Carolina. Edge rushers and linebackers in general, inside and outside, are of absolute need for this team. They've been pretty weak, pretty pathetic. I don't know if Jadeveon Clowney, I think he has one more year left, but so he might be the best of the bunch on that team in terms of getting at the passer. So I'm going to go ahead and take one of my favorite guys in this class. He's listed as a linebacker. I think he's going to be more of an edge, more of that hybrid. Give me Jalen Walker out of Georgia. He's a little bit of everything that you want, right? Again, he can play off ball if you need him to. He can drop back and cover in zone. but I love what I love the upside that he has as a pass rusher. Super athletic. He plays low. He's got length. He's got a pretty good pass rush bag. On top of it, he's got that nonstop dog mentality. Like he's he's a big boy. He plays with power. He loves running through running backs. He loves running through offensive linemen. He's got a lot of versatility that I think can step in and probably be the maybe the lead player on that Carolina defense right now. I liken him to be more of your Micah Parsons-esque edge rusher, a guy that you can move all over the formation. He can even drop back or, in your nickel packages, play a little star or something like that. Jalen Walker's just a very good ball player, a very, very good ball player. And seeing him in the top 10 should be something that we get used to because I think it's going to happen. I'm on to New Orleans here. New Orleans, man, I don't know what's going on there. They're looking for a new coach. Are they going to be looking for a new GM as well? The old GM has just ruined the cap year after year after year. They somehow fix it. They somehow kick the can down the road, but it doesn't get the team any younger, doesn't get the team any better. So they really have to hit on some of these draft picks, and they haven't had the best. They haven't had the best of luck of recent years. Chris Olave seems to be a nice player. He's battling a bunch of concussion issues. Brian Brisset has been up and down and that's been kind of nice. They've had a few other guys that have been good. Talise Fuaga looks like he's going to be a ball player. Some of the guys that have been bad, so we just need an influx of talent here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get Chris Olave a running mate here, and I'm going to take Luther Bird in the second. Or Luther Bird the third, excuse me. I said the second. At only 21 years old, I think he's going to be primarily a slot receiver, although he can do some stuff from the outside, although it's not his forte. Again, he's another guy who's just electric. He's a game changer. He's a playmaker. Put the ball in his hand anywhere. I don't care if it's as a ball carrier, on those, on a, little smoke screen, short little hitch, crossing routes, those slot fades. He's got the ability to change a game anytime his hands are on the ball. He's got really, really good, short area quickness and elusiveness. Yeah, I love that. He's got the football IQ. He's, played in Missouri and didn't have the best quarterback play, so his stats kind of took a little dip. But I think Luther Burden would be a upgrade to the wide receiver group in New Orleans and definitely another good compliment to Chris Olave. So, in 4 years they took 2 top 10 wide receivers, and I think it's a good foundation that they can build off of on that team. Moving forward, Chicago up here, man. I don't think they expected this to happen. Just the way the board fell for me, I didn't expect this to happen. You watch the Chicago games and you see how bad and how flustered Caleb Williams is. Not much protection up front, but Chicago does have 2 high picks in the second round. So I'm going to go ahead and at this point, I'm going to take Mason Graham. He's probably not going to be on the board realistically come this way. This is one guy, I think that somebody might trade up to try to get ahead if he was still on the board here at Chicago. But Chicago needs some help on that interior of the defensive line as well. The Zach Pickens pick out of South Carolina a couple years ago hasn't worked out. Gervon Dexter, has, but you need a running mate, especially if you're going to run an even front over there, like Chicago has. Again, new coach might think differently, but I don't think Mason Graham is really scheme specific. In an odd man front, he could probably settle in that 5 tech and be really good. Even play some nose for you in certain situations, but he's very effective as a pass rusher. I think he would complement the defensive line very well over there. So Mason Graham being on the board here is a steal for Chicago, and they'll address the offensive line, later on in rounds 2 and 3. San Francisco's on the clock, and again, San Francisco's in a good spot because there's players on the board that they didn't expect to be there. I'm going to go ahead and shore up the inside for them, and I'm going to take Will Campbell. Now, I think Will Campbell's a guard. I think he's going to be a very, very good guard. They drafted one in the third round last year in Dominic Pooney, but you move Will Campbell over to the opposite side, opposite Dominic Pooney. Even in a situation, if you want to give Campbell an opportunity to beat Colt McKivitz out at right tackle, I think you can do it. Although, like I said, I think he's more best suited with his power profile, with his really good anchor, with his really short arms to probably settle in inside and be dominant inside. And it's not a bad thing to have, if you got two young studs inside in Pooney and Campbell with, both who have, if you really needed to, in a pinch, have the ability to bounce outside and fill in. So, well, Campbell's going to be the pick right here. Dallas on the clock. Dallas needs a running back. Dallas is going to take Ashton Genty, probably the most overused selection for Dallas in a mock draft. There's a couple different ways they can go, honestly, but again, I'm looking at the board, looking at their situation, and knowing Jerry Jones likes to take those splash kind of players. Ashton Genty's going to be the pick. He's going to step in to a role that's pretty much vacant with Rico Dowdle, walking and them cutting Ezekiel Elliott. There's a spot for an every down running back, and Ashton Genty is going to fit that bill. On to the Miami Dolphins. Interesting, right? There's a bunch of different ways you can go to Miami. So I'm going to preface this by saying, I think that their biggest need is on the offensive line. I think there's a lot of improvements that can be made inside on that team. I think, what happens with Teron Armstead, does he retire? He's hasn't stayed healthy, any part of any of the past 5 years. I think that, they might have something in Patrick Paul, something to, he was a second round pick last year. He got a lot of run this year, got a lot of experience. So you might have something in Patrick Paul as your Teron Armstead replacement. I know you paid not Jackson Carman, who is the right tackle that they just paid last year. Somebody help me out. They just paid their right tackle not too long ago. So I think the interior of the line needs some help. You got to be able to get better than Isaiah Wynn or Liam Eichenberg. However, if this regime stays intact, their motto is to get the ball out of his hands fast. And I don't know if a guard in the top 15 is going to really, be on Miami's target. So I'm going to go ahead and take Malachi Starks. They're going to need a Javon Holland replacement. I don't think that Holland's going to come back. I think their cap situation is tight. He could be a guy that they walk and take the comp pick for next year. So Malachi Starks is going to go off the board. And that leads me to the Colts. Bunch of different ways. I really like, even though he's not on the board, I really like the Jalen Walker fit here. I really like the Malachi Starks fit here. Both of those guys are off the board. Another team that maybe, could use some help on the, help up front. I don't know if Ryan Kelly's coming back, but you're not going to draft a center this high. So I'm going to go ahead and this is going to be a little bit, out of the, out of the norm, a little bit reachy maybe. But I'm going to go ahead and take Jahad Campbell for them. Now, let me talk about Jahad Campbell because I think he's a player that is being extremely slept on in this defensive draft class. At 6'3.5", 244 pounds, absolutely, has the prototypical NFL size and speed. Great frame. Former edge rusher that kind of moved into a mic role and also can bring the heat. Takes on the offensive lineman, stacks and sheds without problem. He's going to be phenomenal whatever team lands him in the run fits. But again, very, very fast, very sneakily, has that sideline to sideline speed, very, very fluid in his movements, very short tackler as well. I like the fact that he's inside and outside. He's going to be able to help the linebacker, or help the Indianapolis defense. If they want to bring some of those mugged blitzers or those zone dogs or something like that. I think Jahad Campbell can step in, and I think he can be within short time. I'm not going to call it as a rookie, but within short time, he's going to be 150 plus tackle a year guy for a long, long time. As long as he stays healthy. Just turned 21 years old, so maybe some might think this is a little high for an off-ball linebacker, but I'm really confident that in Jahad Campbell's ability to make a mark for himself and be a presence on be a force on the defense very quickly. So he's gonna be my pick here for Indianapolis. Indianapolis fans, don't get at me crazy in the comments, but just a different view, different look. I wanted to do it. So I would have probably taken Jahad Campbell here for the Falcons if he was still on the board, and I don't think it's all that crazy. There's a lot of needs on that Falcons team, but I'm still going to go at the edge. I think they ended 32nd in the league in sacks this year. There's a lot of good edge depth here, but there's no one on the board that has that true pass rush win rate. I shouldn't say that because there's a couple guys that are over 30% for the season this year. I'm going to go ahead and take James Pierce. Again, maybe a little high, but I think he is that super bendy, explosive speed rusher that the Falcons have been looking for I don't know how long, many, many years. I think he will complement the current edge rushers that they have on the team right now. I don't know if Matt Judon's coming back, but that's your Matt Judon, replacement. I think opposite of Arnold Ebiketie, who's more of your power rush type. I think you need somebody like this in pass situations to really someone to get pressure on the quarterback and finish with sacks. And James Pierce, although he struggled to start the season this year, was able to do that very well as the season went on. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take James Pierce for the Atlanta Falcons. And it brings me to the Cardinals. Cardinals, bunch of different ways they can go, I guess, right? Interior of the defensive line could use some help. I thought about edge rusher for them as well, but they just traded for Baron Browning. So I would assume that their intention is to keep Baron Browning around. You're not going to spend some draft capital to go get him. He's still kind of young. I know that BJ Ojulari hopefully will come back from injury and he'll be opposite him. They still have Zaven Collins, who I believe is under contract for one more year. I could be wrong on that. They drafted Darius Robinson in the first round last year, so they look okay. For better or for worse. There, where I want to kind of help address this team is the offense tackle spot, because Kelvin Beachum has done a service for the Arizona Cardinals, right? He has done a good service. He's been a long-time soldier there. He's getting long in the tooth, right? Harris Johnson, great player, has not been able to stay in the lineup all that much, but you need a bookend opposite him. So I'm going to go ahead and take Ariante Ursary out of Minnesota. Again, I'm not super high on this tackle class, but Ursary was a fun study. I think Ursary is a really good player. And to me, I don't think you have to lock him in. I think he can play left or right. He's done both in college, although he's settled as a left tackle. With his length, with his upper body strength, and and his ability as a real mauling type run blocker, I like him on the right side. You pop Paris over on the left side. He's got the frame to step in and start right away at 6'6.5", 330 pounds. He's big and long and hard to get around. And guess what? Even if it didn't work out and he struggled on the outside, you know that you got a day one, inside player, a guard right away. Although I don't think you'll need to do that with Ursary. He's going to be the pick here for Carolina. I'm going to move on to Cincinnati. Are they replacing T. Higgins? Are they not replacing T. Higgins? I'm not sure. Are they bringing back T. Higgins? I don't know. I do know that that defense is hurting, right? That defense was the, crux and culprit of, the reason why they're picking, in the top 18 and they're not, pushing themselves, for a playoff spot. Um, I don't know how much time left Sam Hubbard has. He's getting up there in age. There's a lot of turnover that's going to happen on this defense. I'm going to go ahead and look towards a guy like Nick Scorton out of Texas A&M. Um, my second ranked edge player in this class. I love the versatility that he has inside and outside. A big boy, only 21 years old. 285 pounds, almost 6'5". He did it at Purdue. He did it at Texas A&M. If you want one of those guys who's got that versatility that can bounce inside and outside, think somebody like John Franklin Meyer, who's going to be a really solid, a really solid run defender and a guy who can get at the passer too. For a big boy, he's got some, he's got some really, really good get off and suddenness for a guy who plays 285 pounds. Is he the bendiest guy? No, he's not. That's Trey Hendrickson. Hopefully they figure out a way to keep him as well. But Scorton would be a good bookend on the opposite side to Hendrickson and something that, an improvement on that defense that Cincinnati needs. And leads me here to Seattle. I've mocked this pick to Seattle a lot. And I'm going to continue doing it just because I really like the fit. And that's Wyatt Milam. Again, Milam listed as a tackle. I think he's a guard at the next level. I have him as my second ranked guard right behind Will Campbell. This is a guy who has tons of experience, well over 40 games started in college, hasn't let up a sack in 2 years, hasn't let up a pressure in more than a year and a half. Has a good power profile, can move. He's a true technician. And I think at, 320 pounds and 6'6", he'll be able to anchor down and really help the interior of that Seattle offensive line. And again, I don't think he's got a ton of elite traits. I don't think he's got a ton of athletic upside, but in a pinch, if you needed him to pop outside, even with his shorter arms, which again, are going to probably be around 32, sub 32, in a pinch, if you needed him to pop outside, he could do it. He's done it for years, 40 plus starts at West Virginia. So Wyatt Milam's going to be my pick. Houston is on the board. Houston can go a bunch of different ways. Houston really needs some interior help as well. Man, it's hard for me to get away from helping the interior offensive line here. And for me, this is Tyler Booker. Again, maybe a little high, maybe not everyone's, cup of tea, but, this is your true power gap blocking, interior offensive line. He is super, super strong. He plays tough in that, in that box in the phone booth. His physicality is second to none. For a big guy at 348 pounds, he has, he's really agile. He can move, but that's what he does. What he does best is really displace defensive linemen as he runs through them. He's a terror. If you get him out on the edge or on those trap blocks or the kickouts, he runs through guys at the second level, an absolute maul or something. And with his size and again, only being 21 years old, I think there's a lot of room, a very, very high ceiling for Tyler Booker. So he's going to be the pick here. Leaves me on the clock with Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay can go a bunch of different ways as well, man. There's some good players still on the board here. And I'm going to take a replacement on the offense. We don't know. Mike Evans, man, hit 1,000 yards again. I don't know how long he's staying. They might have found something. They might have found something really, really special in Jalen McMillan. He was a guy I loved coming out of this draft class. I think he's played great, in lieu of, the injuries that they've had. on the offensive side. Chris Godwin in particular. I don't know if Chris Godwin's coming back. He's due for a contract. They could just move on from him and leave McMillan there on the outside replacing him. But you pair up Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan with a slot demon like Emeka Ibuka, and you're really cooking with gas. Ibuka, I absolutely adore as a player, as a prospect. He's going to be a slot only guy, but he's probably along with Jack Besh, probably the nastiest route runner in this class. Very good hands. Battled an injury last year, which saw a real dip in his production, but 2 years ago he was through the roof, and he brought that back this year. So he's going to be he's a steal for Tampa Bay. He's going to be he's going to do wonders on that team with those two running backs, with guys like Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan on the outside, and Emeka Ibuka in the slot. Like, that's an offense that's going to be nasty. Denver's on the clock, and like I said, now we're with Texans, with Tampa Bay, and now with Denver, we're into the unlocked in picks, because these are the playoff teams. Denver's smitten that Tyler Warren's still on the board. Tyler Warren, to me, is the best tight end in this class. He's improved the most from last year to this year as well. And he's just a versatile weapon that I think Sean Payton is going to, go goo goo and gaga for. Absolutely. There's not that much that Tyler Warren does everything. He's good. He's improved his hands this year. He cut down on the drops. Was the main target. He can run routes. He can he can really get at you as a blocker as well. I liken Tyler Warren's game to Trey McBride. I think he's actually probably a little bit more athletic than Trey McBride. So, am I expecting a year one, am I expecting Brock Bowers this year from him? No, I'm not, but could you see a season like Trey McBride had from Tyler Warren in his year 2 or 3? I absolutely can. And I think Sean Payton really likes to utilize that tight end. He'll love the skill set that Tyler Warren brings to Denver. So that's going to be the pick there. Pittsburgh's up, and everyone's going to say the same thing. Pittsburgh needs a wide receiver. Pittsburgh needs a wide receiver. But Pittsburgh never picks a wide receiver in the first round, right? On top of it, I'm not sure if there's one here that I'm super, super comfortable with. There could be another wide receiver or two that works their way up into a no-brainer round 1, but I don't think it's there yet. And again, I don't think Pittsburgh really has intentions with this regime to, go through and break the trend of drafting a first round wide receiver. So, you look at this team, and, to me, I think Benjamin Morrison would make sense. I think that you have something good in Joey Porter, right? I think, you're not sure about what's going on with Dante Jackson. I don't know what his contract situation is. He played well in certain spots. You really need that nickel back. Now, is that something that Benjamin Morris can do? I don't know. I think Benjamin Morrison, if he comes out. He still is not declared. But I really like him, in that, off man zone spot outside. Again, he's another guy who is a very, very good athlete with very, very good ball skills, understands the football game, is a heady player. Maybe best fit for, a zone, just because he's not the biggest guy at 6 foot tall, 190 pounds. But you can work with him. You're drafting him for the talent here, and the upside. And I think opposite Joey Porter, I think Benjamin Morrison could, come in and, fit that bill. Again, I thought about some safeties here that maybe can convert into, your nickel back, or, kind of that rover nickel position. But to me, the talent for Morrison at this time on the board, too good to turn down. I'm going to take him. And the Rams are up here. Man, the Rams are in an odd spot, right? They got a really good offense. I think they got an even better defense. They are a couple pieces away from being a really, really um, force to be reckoned with. Like they got the goods. Sean McVay might be the best offensive mind in football right now. Matt Stafford's getting a little long in the tooth. You're going to need to replace him. Is this the place that Milroe can come off? Yes, maybe. I wouldn't be surprised at all. The defense needs some help. The defensive backs, need some work. A guy like Azariah Thomas, a guy like Siobhan Ravel might work. Trey Amos is, he's a real sticky, big, press man, cover cornerback. But that team is going to go as far as the offense is going to take them, and where the offense is hurting is that offensive tackle spot. I don't know how many more games they can go with Alaric Jackson or Rob Havenstein or Joseph Notebloom, working the well. I know what Warren McClendon was a late round pick a couple years ago. He can probably work himself into a good swing tackle. But I'm going to go ahead and take Josh Simmons off the board out of Ohio State. No, he was a transfer into Ohio State. Unfortunately, hurt his knee this year, so was on the shelf after I think week 2. But started another guy that has 30 plus starts between San Diego State and Ohio State. He's played right tackle at San Diego State, transferred over to left tackle. He's got the length to do it. Again, he's a nasty down blocker. He's got the length. He's got the strength that you want. He's a nasty down blocker that displaces guys in the run game. Very smart player. Again, versatile and playing left and right. So to me, you got to protect. You got to protect your asset in Matt Stafford. He's a little long in the tooth. Maybe not as mobile as you can, but you can't have him. The offense is going to go as well as the quarterback is protected, and as well as the holes are drawn, blocked for Kyron Williams. So you have to keep continuing to get some beef up front. And, some of those old heads that they have flopping in and out of left and right tackle aren't going to do it. Give me Josh Simmons, assuming that the medicals come back good. This is a steal for him at 23. Green Bay's up at 24. I think that this is a good spot to look to fortify your defensive backfield. And I'm going to take Trey Amos, right? Trey Amos, again, out of Ole Miss, formerly with Alabama. I think he even played somewhere else, if I'm mistaken, Louisiana, Lafayette. I could be wrong on that. I don't know. But he's got that long frame. He's 6'2". He's about 200 pounds. I really like him in his physicality. I like the way he plays press man coverage. That could do, that could do wonders for that Green Bay defense, who's been looking for a running mate opposite Jair Alexander for a while. And now Jair Alexander, being hurt as much as he was this year, maybe he's, starts out as the complement and turns into the replacement for Jair Alexander. So I'm going to go ahead and take Trey Amos here. He's going to be my pick. Leaves me on the clock here with the Los Angeles Chargers. And I'm going to take my guy here. This guy has been, for me, climbing up the boards left and right. I thought he had a really, really good game in the collegiate playoffs. I liked him before them. I like him even more now. I like his versatility. I think he can play inside. I think he can play 3-tech. And, I think he's best suited as a 3-tech. But, he can disrupt the game as a run defender, as a run stuffer, and get at the passer as well. Big body, light on his feet. Understands football, understands leverage, understands his responsibilities, and plays with discipline on run defense. Give me Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State. He's going to be the interior defensive lineman that I think climbs up the boards most recently, or will climb up the boards between now and April. I'm expecting him to have a, especially if he has a standout, week down at Mobile at the Senior Bowl. Tyleik Williams is a name that people need to get familiar with. Brings me to Washington here, and I'm going to tap one of my favorite parents for this defense, and Washington. Give me Mike Green. Again, at 30 plus, or 30% plus pass rush win rate in college. He's got the size, he's got that speed and that bend. Something that the Washington Commanders really need to do is in replenish an influx of edge rushers and defensive tackles on there. Yeah, could you use could you use an offensive tackle? You absolutely could. But for me, the defense, especially the pass rush, is something that needs to get addressed once and for all, since they traded their two starters last year. I don't know if they've ever really replaced them. Mike Green's just a fun story, man, and a really fun watch. If you haven't got to do so, make sure you do it. He knows how to close. He knows how to get to the quarterback. I love the combination of length and speed that he offers, that get off, that bend, a little bit light in the pants, but with time, I think, he can improve on that 245 pound frame and get some weight on there. Baltimore is up next. There's a lot of good players left on the board here. I'm not going to lie. They went Nate Wiggins last year in the first round. I'm not sure if cornerback is their biggest need. I don't know if they're going to double dip here at cornerback to take him. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a selection that, again, is a little bit out of the box, but I'm going to pay some homage to the player because I think that he's absolutely deserving of a first round. I really think he will when it's all said and done go in the first round. Give me Omarion Hampton out of North Carolina. Yes, they have King Henry. King Henry had a phenomenal season last year, but King Henry's got one more year in his contract. He's a little bit long in that tooth, right? So Baltimore's doing what they do best, and they're just putting a pipeline player who will be here to come in and step in once it's his time. And man, I'm not saying Omarion Hampton is a Derrick Henry clone, but Omarion Hampton is kind of plays like Derrick Henry, if you know what I'm saying. Big guy, 6'1", almost 6'2", 225 pounds. He plays with size. He plays with power. He's deceptively nimble for a big guy. He's got some passing down ability, although it's not like, we're not talking like third down back kind of abilities, but he knows how to, he knows how to play the position of a running back, a very, very sturdy, very, very sturdy in pass blocking as well in pass protection. Something I think that is important, something that helps get young running backs on the field very quickly. Had 67 missed forced tackles this year, over 16 touchdowns. Again, he's, Derrick Henry, he's the Walmart Derrick Henry. And what better to sit and learn than behind the king himself? So Omarion Hampton makes the first round for me here to the Baltimore Ravens. Leaves me on the clock with the Philadelphia Eagles. Man, you can go a couple different ways here, right? Mykel Williams makes a ton of sense. He's probably, a guy that's going to be of interest to the Eagles because, they could use another edge presence. They love Georgia players. He's not bad, Mykel Williams. I think he has a little more kind of rawness and a lot more upside than his body. That it's a lot of projection in what you can get in Mykel Williams. He's strong. He plays low. He still needs to develop a pass rush toolbox. He wins on his sheer athleticism so far. He had under a 10%, true win rate as a pass rusher. So I think that's a lot to be developed. I don't know if, after signing Bryce Huff and watching him struggle, I don't know if they're going to want to take a chance on a guy like that, but if anybody can develop him, it's probably the Philadelphia Eagles. He's going to have a long line of defensive ends to, kind of mold and take him under the wing. I don't think he has to come in here and start right away. Like I said, you have Bryce Huff. You still have you have guys like Nolan Smith who can get at it. Josh Sweat is still there. Jalex Hunt is another guy that they plucked on day 2 last year who I think has shown some promise. But to me, that that they're going to stay in the trenches, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do what they do best and stick with the Georgia guy and take Mykel Williams. It leaves me on the board here with Buffalo Bills, and I'm not going to hesitate here. Get Ed Oliver, a true one tech running, true run stuff in one tech running mate, and Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Grant, probably the best, interior defensive lineman in this class. He's a big boy at 340 pounds, powerful. Again, another guy who can move for a big boy. Very reminiscent. He's nearly not as big, but very reminiscent to the movement skills and agility and short area quickness as Tavondre Sweat has. So you take that and the fact that he's plays with these stones on the hand, hands of steel that he packs a punch and jolts people back. Strong as an ox, nimble as a fox. How is he? Does he have the biggest? Does he have the most length? No, but for what you're asking him to do on that Buffalo defense, I think that merry-go-round of run stuff in one text can kind of come to a close, and this is a good landing spot for him in Buffalo. I think he'll fit in, and there's a role for him, and he'll be a cog in what's developing into a very, very, very good defense. Minnesota's on the clock here again. I think it's cornerback. I think it's Siobhan Ravel at this point. I really like Trey Elmas in this spot too. I thought of Azariah Thomas, but when you talk about defensive backs in this class, yes, Revel had an ACL that really wiped out this last year in East Carolina. But you talk about 6'3", 200 pounds, length, ball skills, that dog mentality as a true competitor. You talk about press, talk about man coverage skills. As long as he can come back healthy from that knee injury, I think this guy is a perfect fit in that Minnesota Brian Flores scheme. So leaves me up here with the Lions. Oh man, the Lions can go a bunch of different places, but I'm going to stick to the edge, I think. And I'm going to give some love here to Jack Sawyer. No, maybe a reach for me. I just think that this is a Detroit kind of guy. He doesn't excel. This is the truth. He doesn't excel in any one thing, right? At 22 years old, 6'5", 265 pounds, he's got a good solid build. He doesn't excel in one specific thing, all right? But he's very good at everything, right? He can set the edge and play at the point, play tough at the point of attack. He plays incessantly with a nonstop motor. Like that to me is the kind of guy that Dan Campbell is going to fall in love with. He's got a really, really good quick first step. He's got powerful hands. Still developing a little bit as a pass rusher. I don't know if he's going to be a double-digit sack guy early in his career, but I think he can develop into that. And plus, they don't need him opposite Aiden Hutchinson. That's Aiden Hutchinson's job, right? You just need some more stability there. So, again, I think that this is just a kind of guy that Dan Campbell is going to fall in love with. He's just a bring your lunch pail to work kind of guy that just goes 100% time, play after play. And, they need some edge help there in Detroit. So Jack Sawyer is going to be my pick. The last pick of this mock draft, it's going to be Colson Loveland. Arguably the best receiver, the best receiving tight end. Some will probably say Harold Fannin, so I don't know if that's necessary. I don't know if I said something that's necessarily true, but he's maybe the best weapon, because he's a mismatch nightmare, man. You can play him outside on the boundary. You can play him in line. You can play him as a big slot. I think he's probably best suited as a big slot. A lot of Dalton Kincaid vibes to him, but I think he's even a more fluid mover. I think he's faster than Dalton Kincaid will be. So Colson Loveland is exactly what the doctor ordered for this Kansas City offense. I don't know how much time Travis Henry has left. I know Noah Gray has looked good as his replacement. But give me Colson Loveland, best player on the board all day long. And there you have it, folks. That was your first round. One little mini trade, just going from 3 to 2. Outside of that, I stayed, true to everything else. You got some new names in new places. Some guys rose up the board. Some guys dropped. But that's where it stands. And that's where we're going to end it. So a lot more content coming out. I'm excited to break some news to you guys. I'm going to keep it quiet for a little longer until I finalize everything. But you're going to be seeing a lot more of me, hopefully. Fingers crossed. But in the meantime, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, get in my comments, tell me how good or bad I did. I'm okay. I'm a big boy. I'll defend my picks. And that's it, man. That is mock draft version 4.0. I can't wait for this draft season to get here. It's really here now, but I can't wait to really get here where everyone gets kind of involved in it. It's my favorite time of the year. A lot more draft content coming out from me, so make sure you stay connected to the Draft Dodgers here on Project Prospect with Dom C. Until next time, folks, adios.